Welcome to episode 91 of the Backlash 605 podcast. Here we are today beginning our August mini-series talking baseball because God knows if baseball is actually going to be around for the rest of this summer. I am one of your hosts. I am Casey Kelderman.
I'm Brian Mensing.
And today, Brian, we're kicking off our baseball mini-series for the month of August with the movie Field of Dreams. No, this is not heaven. This is just a podcast.
You had to go there.
I had to go there. We'll get into that a little later on in the show because we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about.
Dang it, we're not in Iowa.
We're not in Iowa. No, we are definitely in South Dakota. We got a lot of news to talk about for you. We're going to see the return to the box office. We're bringing that back since we're actually getting some movies in theaters again.
Sort of.
It's a crazy time. We're going to talk about what's coming soon. And Brian, The Rock bought the XFL. What? I know that's not movie related, but
no, I wanted to share that. I wanted to share that with the group, but I was like, well, it's not exactly.
We need to talk about this at the top.
But this is hilarious. And unbeknownst to me until I saw this was the fact that Vince was filing bankruptcy for the XFL, because they couldn't, obviously they picked I understand why they picked the time when they did to try to be able to get the football when we don't have football, but then he happened to have to run into a global pandemic.
Yep.
So that kind of curbed everything. So
maybe the third time is the charm, and The Rock will be the as he does, he's the Viagra for the XFL, and maybe it'll work the third time around. Who knows?
Well, I'll say this. I made mention of this to a buddy of mine earlier today. Is at least the one thing, given that Dwayne Johnson now owns the XFL, it's that at least we have a guy who used to be a football player at one point in college. At least he's played football to understand at least the aspects of, the game part of it, that, he's proven himself to be a decent businessman. So this might actually work. Plus
he's done all right for himself.
Exactly. It's not like he's hurting. It's not like he's run himself into the ground.
I could give two licks about sports, but this is cool. This is cool. That's all I got to say. But when me and my buddy were talking about it, though, he's like, "Is this real?" I'm like, when I found it on AV Club. I'm like, "AV Club's not satire." And then he sent me the Facebook post where Dwayne Johnson actually announced it. I'm like, well, if that isn't it coming from the horse's mouth. Yeah, so let's get off our XFL talk for the week. We'll talk about that next week. Give everybody an update on that. Never talk about this again. Like I said, this episode we'll be talking about Field of Dreams a little later on in the show, as we are going to be magically transformed into my studio. So if you hear a little audio difference, it's because we're recording the first half on Zoom, second half in studio, because we have a special guest. This is Steven Dahlmeier from the State Theatre here in Sioux Falls. He had mentioned Field of Dreams while we were there, so I'm like, well, we're talking about the movie. Let's bring him on to talk about it. So
yes,
that's coming up in the second half. But let's jump back into something we have not done since March, Brian.
What have we not done since March, Casey?
We have not talked about the box office.
Because it's been a weird box office for the last 4 months.
It has, and I figure we figured like we're starting a new mini-series. The box office numbers are actually getting reported now, and they're steadily coming in between theaters and drive-ins. So, yeah, let's just jump into it. Number one, the only new movie on our top 5 list is the Dave Franco directorial debut of The Rental with $290,000. Playing in 242 theaters. Pretty good, opening weekend, opening simultaneously in these few theaters as well as VOD at the same time. And I think that's a strong opening, and just having the title of number one at the box office, beating out some Spielberg classics.
Right.
That's a big deal for Dave Franco.
I think that's huge. I mean, in the time where we're at, and for the sake of him having a movie come out, and because I mean, even if this had hit major theaters and we were in a non-pandemic and whatnot, this probably would never have even broken maybe even the top 15, top 20. The fact that he can technically say, I have a number one movie in the country, I don't think his brother can even say that.
It's been a very interesting time for movies here in the last few months, and it's cool to see like The Rental. That's the movie everybody's talking about right now. A few weeks, 1 or 2 weeks ago, it was Palm Springs. Like that was the movie everybody's talking about. Now I hear a movie everybody's talking about is Host on Shudder. Like that one's starting to blow up. So it's these smaller movies that are getting the attention that in any other year they would be forgotten about, and 5 people would have watched them. So this is pretty cool. Let's go through the other ones really fast because they're classics. They're bona fide classics, and they're bound to make money if you put them in a theater.
Exactly.
Number 2, The Goonies, $150,000. Number 3, Jurassic Park, 117. And number 4, Back to the Future, 107. And rounding out our top 5 is Grease, 102. So we have 4 re-releases here for this summer. These have been pretty much mainstays for most theaters throughout the pandemic, and the few theaters that are open. These have kind of been the big ones everybody's gravitating towards having in theaters again. So no surprises there. And it seems like studios are kind of picking and choosing which movies are on which weekends type of thing. So yeah.
I do want to
have any other final thoughts?
I do have some final thoughts. You didn't put it in here because you only put the top 5 in here, but I happen to be looking at Box Office Mojo right now, and I would just like to point out that what came in at the number 10 spot for a new movie this week, Killer Raccoons 2: Dark Christmas in the Dark.
I'm in.
I don't know what it only brought in a little over $3,000 in 4 theaters, but Killer Raccoons.
Yeah, why not? Why not? That's the year we are in. That is the next thing that's coming in September. Killer Raccoons. Watch out.
This must be an old movie of yours, it looks like. I'm looking at the synopsis here. On a snowy Christmas Eve, former mild-mannered college student Casey Smallwood is released from prison after serving 10 years for underage drinking. Did they just change your name?
No, they just took my name. It was based on a spec script I wrote a few years ago. It's not a good time. Had to make money for college somehow.
Sorry, I couldn't help it. When you see things like Killer Raccoons, you have to click on the link.
All right, so that is the box office for this weekend. We're going to keep you all updated. Some of the things we'll talk about and coming soon this week may pop up in the box office. We'll see. But yeah, let's jump to the news, Brian, and I'll let you take over here. We have some unfortunate, sad news here at the top.
We have sad news, yes, and I'm looking at how you wrote these notes out.
He would have liked it this way.
Oh my God, man, really? The sad news is we have the unfortunate passing of Wilford Brimley, the man, the myth, the legend, the man. You would see him in such movies as The Natural, The Thing, Hard Target, and all of those diabetes commercials.
Diabetes
commercials. And I can't believe you even spelled diabetes as diabetes.
The way he says it, that's the way I put it in the notes.
I know. And unfortunately, he passed away at the age of 85. Probably for me, the biggest movie for me growing up that I know him from was Cocoon. He's absolutely fantastic. That's a stellar cast. Just a great overall movie. Figured out in his passing, it's damn near impossible to find said movie, whether it be streaming or digital or find a hard copy of it. It's not in print right now, and it kind of sucks because I kind of want to see this again. So yeah, unfortunately, he passed away at the age of 85.
Yeah, I the reason I put in the diabetes thing is one, that is maybe one of the most things he's going to be most known for in his career. And I don't, he's not
sadly, because he was a great actor.
No, but he's not afraid of that being his legacy, though. He has made jokes himself about that. And apparently I saw this, his last tweet was what would be like his wrestling name, and they were all diabetes puns. So he was in on the joke about it. And I don't think people were ever, it was just more of an online meme, like people trolling that, but it was never against what he was going for. It. That's actually how I know Wilford Brimley the most growing up, was from those commercials, seeing them on TV all the time. And now growing up, having gone back to some of his earlier work, like The Thing, and I love him in Hard Target with Jean-Claude Van Damme. I think he's so much fun in that movie. Him riding a horse is maybe the greatest moment in cinematic history.
Yeah, I like how you put like Hard Target in here, but you don't put classics like Cocoon in here. I mean, come on, man.
I've never seen Cocoon, but I have seen Hard Target.
Because you're wrong.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate, another passing of a legend here, but 85, it's a long life, and I didn't realize, 85 is pretty old, but I didn't realize he was that young, because he's always felt like he was 85 to me. But yeah, it's an unfortunate passing, and 2020 keeps hitting us harder every time, and yeah, rest in peace, Mr. Wilford Brimley.
It's a sad, sad day.
It is. Let's get some happier news then, Brian. Let's get some good news in here.
I know. I'm trying to find it. I didn't know about this here. I'm just looking at the news the news that you wrote up in the notes here. I didn't even know this was a thing. I'm actually Googling it as we speak and whatnot. That we have in here that it looks like there is a Dread TV series that is written and ready to go, and it looks like Carl Urban and Stallone both want in. I did not realize this was a thing. I personally don't know how I feel about this being a show unless it's going to be on some cable network, like either like an FX if you're going to go straight,
it'll go to a streaming service.
Yeah, whether it be a streaming service or like HBO or something like that, because this thing needs to trail on that hard R like what the Carl Urban Dread was, because as much as I adore the Judge Dredd Stallone version because it's so campy and over the top stupid. That's why I enjoy it. But this, if they are legit gonna go with this here, they need to make it true and make it as gory as it needs to be.
Yeah, so I saw this earlier this week, and it was basically Rebellion, the CEO of Rebellion, which now owns the rights to Dredd, is all about making some sort of sequel happen for the Carl Urban movie. So Stallone is throwing his name in there because he's Stallone, and anytime anyone brings up a movie he's ever been in, he hears it like a I don't know, like an owl, and just wants to be in on it. So the Stallone thing is a headline, but they're not going to go off anything Stallone. It's the Carl Urban version. Oh, and I saw this a lot online recently, and some of the other stuff and shows I listen to and other articles I've been reading, and it's people have been talking about the streaming war that is happening right now and will probably intensify as production has slowed down on a lot of things, and they want to make sure they have surefire hits. This to me seems like a surefire hit. It's based off an IP. It's based off a movie people love and have been clamoring for a sequel for. And I think no matter where this ends up, if I were to guess where it would end up, I would say HBO is probably going to be the one that's going to throw out the money for this, to have it exclusively on their streaming service. And I think that's where it would end up. So there we get our hard R rating. We'd get the same tone as the Dredd movie from, what year was that? 2012?
Yeah. It's almost 10 years.
Yeah, it's been almost a decade. And yeah, I'm all for this. If we get a continuation of Dredd on TV, that seems pretty cool.
And again, I'm hoping it's the case of it being put it where it needs to be so it can be made properly, because otherwise it's just not going to be good.
All right. What else? Can we keep the good news rolling?
Yeah, let's try to keep the good news rolling here. I was actually pulling up something that's not on the news here, but we'll get back to that here. The next one here, and I'm excited for this one here. I'm hoping it's not your particular take, because I deem that unacceptable, but I know why, and I completely agree with why you're saying it, is that Courtney Cox has been confirmed to reprise her role as Gale Weathers in the new and upcoming Scream 5. I'm hoping they'll get as many returning cast members as absolutely possible, whether you're talking about the new generation from Scream 4 to obviously any of your survivors from movies past to come back for this year for what they can. But obviously needing your core characters. We already know that David Arquette's already signed on. It's good to see that him and his ex-wife play nice, that they can be in a movie together again.
Nev Campbell is coming back too.
Is Nev Campbell confirmed?
It
hasn't been confirmed.
It's not been confirmed by anyone, but there's no way they're making a Scream 5 without Nev Campbell.
Right. That's exactly. So yeah, there's that, and I'm excited for this here. As long as they do the 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 series justice without Wes, I'm all in because I'm always been a fan of the Scream franchise.
Yeah, I think this is a no-brainer decision. I was expecting this to happen. He was the first one confirmed. It was rumored right after that Nev had signed on. I think that's a very valid rumor. And now
Mm-hmm.
Courtney Cox just confirming it. I think they're just kind of building anticipation for the movie. Obviously, the big three from the franchise will still be in it: Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette. You alluded to this, what I think the opening of the movie is, and if I was them, I would do this because with Scream being where it's at, and you need to set a new precedent. We no longer have Wes Craven. Kevin Williamson is not writing. It's going to be a very different Scream movie. You need to set a precedent right away, and this is what the franchise is known for. Show Gail and Dewey living a nice, peaceful life, cooking dinner one night, and Ghostface shows up and butchers both of them. And that's your cold open for the movie. And then you follow Sydney, and if you want to bring back Kirby, Hayden Panettiere's character, I'm all for that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that you need to go in a new direction, and that would be my pitch to open the movie.
I mean, and it makes complete sense, like you said, because we're essentially passing the torch from one to the other. You know, Kevin Williamson, Wes Craven, that sort of thing. So that seems like a very plausible. Part of me says I don't want that to happen because I want to see that if Scream 5 is successful, that they'll make a 6. You know, and let me just ride the Scream train for as long as I possibly can. So I lean in both directions for this.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'm excited she's coming back. I'm like I wouldn't want him to do it without her. Same with Arquette
Right.
and Nev. So I'm excited she confirmed it, and they all seem very excited about the franchise, which is very cool.
Well, I mean, outside of like Courtney Cox, you know, having made fame off of the Friends, TV series and whatnot, this franchise, I could certainly see why Nev Campbell and David Arquette especially would, want to jump on this because these were career-defining movies for these guys. I mean, yes, we knew them from other things, but these are what they're probably most known for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Let's get to more bad news.
Bad news. We don't like the bad news. That is, Universal and AMC are trying to make peace after the whole debacle about AMC talking about that they weren't going to show Universal movies and whatnot, and that they are going to bring down the theatrical window between theatrical release and when it's available for premium VOD down to 17 days. This is it's good and it's bad, and it's good for the sake of, like, for instance, like maybe some people are not comfortable with going to the theaters when they do finally open whatnot. It gives them that option sooner versus later, but then it's also going to be hurting some of the smaller venues or like places like, say, like the West Mall, for example, who work off second run and they're barely getting there is no room for second run because of this shift in how they want to do it and whatnot. And it's not like Universal is a small little production company. They have some big movies that are to be coming out and will be coming out, Fast and Furious. But I get why they're just trying to be able to make peace in the middle, and it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation, I think.
Yeah, we've been talking about the death of cinema for a long time, the death of theaters. AMC just put the dagger in their own heart. This is a terrible idea for movie theaters going forward. The AMCs and the Cinemarks and the Regals will probably be all right.
But you also just said going forward. Yeah, my understanding is this is just a temporary change, and that it would go back to the 90 days once everything gets back to quote unquote normal.
That'll depend on the studios in this situation, because they're going to hold all the power right now, because I mean, especially with Universal, they've been showing with like Trolls World Tour, they didn't need a theatrical release for the movie to make bonkers money. Like, they didn't need it.
That was also Trolls, though. That was a movie that easily plays well in a home where you don't need it to be on a big screen because the people that are watching it are like 8 years old.
Yeah, but I think this is a terrible idea. Right now, it is only AMC theaters. This has not come out, I believe, to any other theaters right now that they will continue to do this at all. So this might just be a working relationship with Universal and AMC right now, just kind of to mend,
save face.
Yeah, to make peace on some of the things they were throwing back at each other a few months ago. So I'm hoping it's just that, and this doesn't open the floodgates for other studios and theater chains to do the same, because then mom and pop shops they're done. We're not going to see single screen theaters anymore, because already, for example, if you take like a Disney movie, you're locked in for 4 weeks. Well, if half of that is gone because the movie's already going to be on VOD, your theater's empty for 2 weeks. How are you going to make sales after that? I think that's going to be a big problem for smaller theaters if this type of trend continues with that.
The one thing I will give this, and maybe this is the catalyst to it all here, and I'm just throwing this out as something that just popped in my head here, is you're talking about the littler theaters, like the places, maybe you're talking like the West Mall, even for being a, 7 theater kind of thing, or the State Theater that's a single theater, the smaller ones outside of town and whatnot. Maybe this is a way for these to redefine what they are for a movie theater, and this is the resurgence of repertory screenings that we haven't been able to see. All we ever get is, oh, it's an anniversary edition. If I'm going to go see that in theaters, I'm going to have to wait 10 years when they have the next anniversary edition to be able to have things like we said in the box office, to be able to go see Goonies and Back to the Future and stuff like that, and to be able to have more ability to see some of these classic movies on the big screen when we've never had it before.
That could be, and I think right now we're just in a really weird time, especially with that's the norm right now is the repertory screenings, and unfortunately people don't want to go out to theaters, so they're not making a whole lot of money. So that's it's just a tricky situation everybody's in right now, and
very much so.
I'm just hoping that this is just temporary and between two entities that we're just trying to make peace and save face for each other, but who knows? We'll keep it updated on this, but it's a tricky situation, and it's a tightrope act right now that everybody's trying to walk. So,
right.
Speaking of tightrope acts, let's talk about the tightrope act of Tenet.
You mean the movie that we just talked about last week, where we said that it was pulled off of the schedule indefinitely?
Yes, this week in Tenet news.
Right. In Tenet news this week, now Warner Brothers is shifting gears again. Shocker. That Tenet will be released internationally in August ahead of its debut in September, on September 3rd. And I don't know, it's just to be done with it. Like, I at this point right now, as much as I want to see this movie, it's almost to the point where you almost want to boycott this movie because you're just tired of listening to the moving cogs and wheels and everything that Warner Brothers is doing with this damn thing.
This just in, our news is already outdated because there is not a chance in God's hell that this makes it September 3rd release date.
Why do you say that?
It's just not a chance. Because there's no way this movie does not open in LA or New York, and those theaters are not opening this year.
Yeah,
it's just not going to happen. I don't know why Warner Brothers or Christopher Nolan or a combination of both still is insisting on this movie coming out as soon as possible.
Because they probably have a room full of analysts who keep giving them all whispers and dreams that this can still happen.
They must be working with Trump's task force then, because this movie, yes, his Space Force. This is not happening. It's not going to come out September 3rd. I know it's in select theaters, but no way this movie debuts in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Oh no.
It's just not. It's just not. Or wherever Indiana. It's just not going to happen without a LA or New York release. It's just the situation we're in, and I don't. If I was Warner Brothers and this is Wonder Woman and this are my two biggest movies of the year, I'm not going to open this in less than half of the theaters in the U.S. and at half capacity in theaters that will actually carry it.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make any financial sense to me. Push it till next year. Keep promoting the hell out of it because people want to see this. That's why we keep talking about Tenet every week. Just wait. That's all you got to do. Just wait. You won't be forgotten. So,
of course, they won't be forgotten because we talk about them every single week.
Oh yeah. So
we just need to have a subsection of the news that's news coming soon, trailers, Tenet.
Tenet news. Yeah. I just don't think this is going to happen. I can see it opening internationally because that's not anything we're not used to. Movies have opened internationally weeks or a month before we get them here in the U.S. That's not anything new. So I could see that happening with the status of theaters in other countries, but here in the U.S., it's just not going to happen.
No.
Call me pessimistic, but I want to see this movie more than anyone else. And I mean, if it would come out September 3rd here in Sioux Falls, I'm there. I'm buying a ticket Thursday night, but it's just not going to happen.
You're gonna make me look at my calendar now.
I don't think it's a Thursday night. Whenever September 3rd is, I think it's like a Tuesday.
Well, you keep on talking here, and I'm gonna look it up because now I'm curious.
But that's all we got for news. Did you have any other things that you want?
Oh yes, I did actually. That's what I was actually pulling up. And we brought this up in our chat here just a wee bit ago. Is a movie called The Woman in the Window, which is a new upcoming Amy Adams movie that is currently being sold from Disney to Netflix because this is one of those I believe this was the last film in the Fox can during the acquisition of the Fox properties. And my guess is that they don't feel that this is in their little wheelhouse, if you will, the mouse house that it is. So they're getting rid of it and basically saying this is no longer going to be a Disney film. This is going to be a Netflix film. They're just cutting ties with it altogether as opposed to having it be underneath one of their umbrellas, which as I mentioned earlier with us in the group here, this is not the first time Disney has done this. Where if it doesn't meet what they feel is for them, that they will figure out how to get rid of it. Dogma is a prime example of that. That is why you can't find Dogma digitally or re-release in Blu-ray or whatever the case is. I won't go into detail. Just look it up. It's a sad story for the sake of Dogma because Dogma is a fantastic film. But yeah, The Woman in the Window going to Netflix because Disney is getting rid of it.
This just in, Dogma is coming to Disney Plus next month. What a strange turn of events.
Yeah, that won't happen.
With this movie, I can see why Disney is doing this right now. Yeah. They're putting all their money into Disney Plus. This does not fit the criteria of Disney Plus. And Netflix right now, they're trying. It's Disney Plus and Netflix and HBO are kind of the big three right now that everybody's playing the big game with. And I mean, Netflix probably paid top dollar for it, as they're known to do.
This could have been something that they could have, potentially, maneuvered for the sake of Hulu.
Disney has a weird thing with Hulu. They don't like messing with that, I've noticed, because I mean, they could have dropped Artemis Fowl on Hulu, and they didn't do that either.
Oh, that's totally like a kids movie. Like Disney Plus, that makes total sense here. But look at like Palm Springs, for example.
That was yeah.
I mean, it's not your atypical Disney-esque, kind of thing and whatever. And if you were to tell me it's Hulu versus Disney Plus, yeah, Palm Springs is going to go on Hulu. There's no way they're going to have that many F-bombs on Disney Plus.
Well, yeah, and Hulu is still a combination of things because they still have the think it's with Universal is who they work a lot with. So
NBC Universal.
Yeah, so
maybe it's that side of things.
That's a different situation, and that might be the movie stuff. I don't know all the inner workings of Hulu. That's a strange.
We need to talk to those guys. Tell them they make sure to tell us how all the stuff works, because dang it, we need to know in South Dakota.
Yeah, let me get Bob Iger on the phone and figure out what the hell is going on.
God dang it, Bob.
Yeah, so no surprise here that'll go to Netflix. Seems more of a Netflix fare to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move to coming soon. Let's run through these pretty quickly. We got a couple of them that we got to talk about this week.
Are we going to get kosher about it?
We are going to be kosher about it, because the first movie we're talking about is An American Pickle, which arrives on HBO Max on August 6th. This is their first exclusive original movie starring Seth Rogen, and Seth Rogen as he plays an immigrant who is trapped in a huge vat of pickle brine and awakens 100 years later to move in with his great-grandson, Seth Rogen.
I'm totally watching this. As weird and obnoxious as I don't know what to think of this movie, I'm totally watching this film.
Yeah, I don't have HBO yet. It still has not made its way to my Fire Stick for some reason.
Poor thing.
But I have other ways to do it, I guess. But I'm excited to watch this. So this might be what HBO is looking for the reason someone signs up. This might be the one to sign me up, because there is some other stuff I've wanted to catch on there, and this is one of them. I think the movie looks great, and we talked about the trailer a few weeks ago, so we don't have to go too much into it. But I think it's a perfect vehicle for Seth Rogen, and maybe can stretch his comedic chops in this a little differently. By playing Seth Rogen yet, and a different, an old time version of Seth Rogen.
Well, and that's where I'm intrigued by this. Like, the whole premise of this movie just seems weird, but at the same time too, it seems it's a lot more dramatic / heartfelt than your typical Seth Rogen film. And I love the fact that, especially in the last even 10 years, yes, everybody knows him as the funny weed guy from Canada, kind of thing. Right? But
that guy,
but that he's actually extremely talented. He knows what he's doing. He's a fantastic producer. Everybody who's worked with him loves working with him, that sort of thing. I would have thought I'd ever see Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron in a movie together, good or bad or whatever the case is. There's just, the way he's been like branching himself out into like Preacher and more dramatic stuff. I'm excited for him, because I think
Ninja Turtles in a little bit that we talked about a few weeks ago.
That's right. Yeah. I think he's doing a fantastic job in diversifying and not just being the weed guy, the funny weed guy.
Yeah, I think he's making the right steps for himself, and I think this is another one of those steps. He's going to help build an entire brand out of this, and he's bringing his star power to this, but it's also a little bit out of the box for him as well.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have The Tax Collector, which arrives on VOD August 7th. This is a new film from writer-director David Ayer. You may know his name from Suicide Squad, Fury, Bright, End of Watch, as he reunites with Shia LaBeouf from Fury. And it is about LA gangs, which is his bread and butter. Did you have a chance to watch this trailer? And
I did.
Is this something you're going to be checking out?
Until you got to the part where it says Shia LaBeouf, I forgot the name of the movie. No, I saw the trailer, and I do think the Shia looks different in this film, which is saying something, because Shia looks different in like every film lately, it seems like. I'm intrigued, because I genuinely do like Shia LaBeouf, even if people want to give him crap about the Transformer movies. I genuinely like him. I think the pairing of him and David Ayer is an interesting combination, and obviously we know that David Ayer does the LA gang scene thing perfectly fine. Like, he could probably do that part of it in his sleep, between like what he did with Bright and End of Watch, Training Day. That's going to be, so I'm intrigued to see how well the chemistry of those two, the direction and the acting, pulls out in this film here. And I mean, come on, we got George Lopez in this too.
Yeah, George looks like he's in something different for once. I haven't seen George in a long time.
He looks like the old Mexican guy that is going to kick my ass.
Yeah, they're like, we couldn't get Danny Trejo, so George Lopez. I'm for this. I think this.
Gabriel Iglesias looks way too happy.
And he might not fit the type. But I'm excited for this movie. This movie looks pretty good. I mean, it is typical fare for David Ayer, but I have liked, a majority of his work, Suicide Squad notwithstanding. But yeah, I think that he's kind of going back to more of a roots type of thing, trying to recollect himself after something like Suicide Squad and Bright, which was not well received either, even though I like the movie. End of Watch is one of my favorite underrated gems from the last few years, and I think this is going to be a nice step for him. I'm wondering if this was always intended for VOD. I'm assuming it is now, because it's VOD, not premium VOD. So at least that you're not going to be spending an arm and a leg to rent the movie or buy it when it comes out either. So I'm excited to check it out. I think it looks good, and Shia looks like he's doing something different. And I like new Shia. I grew up on old Shia, but I like this new Shia.
I prefer new Shia, but that's because I didn't grow up on old Shia. So
even Stevens, baby.
No, thank you. I never even saw him in Holes.
Oh my! You've never watched Holes?
Nope.
Oh, Holes is great. Still holds up. The next movie that we got up here coming to VOD on the same day, August 7th, is She Dies Tomorrow. This is the written, starring, and directed by Amy Seimetz. This is a woman becomes convinced that she's going to die tomorrow, and everyone she runs into contagiously starts thinking that they're going to die as well. So the film the film also stars Michelle Rodriguez, Josh Lucas, and Adam Wingard is in this movie. Strange cast. I've heard some good things about this movie. Looks strange. It looks like a dark comedy, but it's also horrifying. I'm excited to check this out. This seems pretty fun and kind of up my alley.
Well, and the first thing I immediately gravitate towards is the fact that this is a neon release. So for the sake of being neon, and they have kind of a sense of a certain kind of niche that they do and whatnot. So this screams like a neon film easily.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, it'll end up on Hulu in 2 months. So if you're not going to want to rent it and you saw the trailer, it'll be on Hulu by then. But that's probably where I will eventually watch it. But this seems like a good film, and kind of a timely one at that too. Next up, we have a film called Work It, which is a Netflix original film. August 7th for this one. This does not seem like a film up our alley, Brian. From the star of Girl Meets World, Sabrina Carpenter plays a high school senior who creates a dance squad in order to get into the college of her dreams. Next up, we have. Do you have any thoughts on Work It?
No, but the part of you like, not up our alley. I was like, I watched all but like 2 episodes of Girl Meets World.
I watched the first 2 episodes of the show. It was fine, but
it was.
I heard it's a good show.
It's an entertaining show, and it was a very much a copy paste of the predecessor. But that's the only reason why I even know who Sabrina Carpenter is, other than the fact that I know she's a singer as well.
Next up on Disney Plus, August 7th, is the documentary Howard, which is based on the co-writer of some of the Disney classic songs in The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin, Howard Ashmore, who tragically died in 1991. So it follows him during the production of the last few films there in the Disney Renaissance of the late 80s, early 90s. And yeah, the trailer looks great. I'm excited to check this one out. I'm all for a good documentary. Disney puts out pretty good ones on Disney Plus, and this seems like not their standard documentary either, because they're talking about someone who died of AIDS, and that doesn't seem like, who knows how much they'll go into that on a Disney Plus documentary, but it seems very, very interesting to have it on there.
I completely agree. And I one thing I do appreciate about Disney Plus, even though I probably don't watch as much of it as I probably should, is that they don't shy away from certain things as long as it fits their profile. They're not going to shy away from doing a documentary about something like that because it's still in their wheelhouse, because it's in regards to somebody who was a part of the productions and stuff like that. So I am interested to watch this, and I'm kind of curious. However, being said I didn't see any trailer or anything like that, I didn't realize there was one here. All I saw was Howard and Disney Plus, and I was like, are we getting something Howard the Duck? And then I kept reading and I got sad.
No, we are not. Not yet. I believe they're working on something with Howard the Duck, I guess.
All I know is Howard the Duck better be voiced by Seth Green, because he's already done it, and he's done it twice, and keep it flowing.
Next up, we have our last coming soon for streaming releases. This is La Llorona, not the Conjuring universe movie, but no, this is a different. This is a different version, which arrives on Shudder August 6th, and it takes place in modern-day Guatemala and deals with some political stuff going on there in Guatemala as it intertwines with the legend of La Llorona. I had to pronounce it right that time.
La Llorona.
La Llorona. So this made its debut at Sundance this past year. I'm with Shudder putting out new movies every week. I'm very excited about that, but then I am also a little weary of maybe they're just trying to get content on there. But I've heard mixed things on La Llorona, so maybe I'll check. It seems like maybe on a cold, rainy day, which in the middle of summer is not very often. I will eventually watch this movie.
Of course you will, because it's right up your alley.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and we do as we're talking here. We will have a review for La Llorona on our website, backlot65.com.
Yeah.
Not written by me, obviously, because I have not watched the movie. And then the last up here in coming soon, I have asked our great contributing writer, Mr. Derek Veering, to add these in here for us, because we got to talk about them. We got to embrace the 605, I think, a little more in our name, and this is the best way we can do so. So we're going to be talking about some of the special screenings and events here in the 605 area, and some of the big ones that we got coming up. So Wednesday, August 5th. So as this episode is dropping, if you need something to do tonight, you can head out to Vern Eide Automotive and check out Frozen 2, as they're going to be showing this on the big screen outdoors. It starts at 7:30, and you can take pictures with Frozen characters. Hopefully Olaf does not melt. And it is a $5 donation per car. So that is pretty cool that they're putting this on. 100% of the proceeds go to the Compassionate Children, with Vern Eide matching proceeds up to $5,000. So that is very cool of them to do that. Yeah, so that's a fun thing that we got going on. And
Compassionate Childcare.
Yeah, that's a very cool thing. And then Brian, this is right up your alley, because Saturday, August 8th, every Saturday here in Sioux Falls, we have Moonlight Movies in the Park at Faywick Park in downtown Sioux Falls, and they are showing Back to the Future.
Oh, that would be so amazing. That would be so amazing indeed.
I have not made it ever out to one of these yet. This seems like
neither have I.
A perfect one to get out to. I know they did Field of Dreams earlier, and we should have made it out for that one. I mean, but Back to the Future, perfect outdoor type of movie, and yeah, this might be the one to check out here August 8th, Saturday at dusk, usually 9:00.
Yes.
All right, so that's all we have for Coming Soon. That you can check out the full article of Coming Soon. You can find everything new to streaming, anything coming to any local theaters as well, or drive-ins. You'll find the full thing on backlot605.com on our Coming Soon articles. So we're going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to transform into out of Zoom. We're going to be sucked out of the computer into the real world as we talk about Field of Dreams with Steven from the State Theatre, and we'll see you in just a minute. Back on the Backlot 605 podcast, I am one of your hosts. Of course, I am Casey Kelderman.
Brian Mensing.
And we are joined today as we are talking about Field of Dreams in our first episode of our baseball miniseries. And as we talked about a little bit before the show, we might be the only baseball that is going on here for the month of August. But
we got to have some sort of baseball, so why not at least talk about it?
Yeah, we just got to. We're going to provide the baseball for you this month. So we're joined by Steven from the State Theatre here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Steven, how are you?
Great. Good.
Good. I'm gonna have you hold the mic just that is a very old mic that we borrowed from a church and never brought it back. Yeah, we got the okay for it, I think.
I made sure he got the okay. I would feel bad from stealing from a church.
But we're gonna jump in and talk about Field of Dreams today. This is the first movie we're talking about in our baseball miniseries, and for myself, I don't know where else I would start.
Of course, Mr. Iowa doesn't start with a movie from Iowa talking about baseball.
The movie from Iowa.
The only baseball movie from Iowa?
Yeah. Well, one of the only movies from Iowa, too.
Oh, true.
This movie has a very strong place in my heart. I don't know about you guys. For me, growing up in Iowa, this is definitely, especially a certain line in this movie that we'll talk about, kind of rings true as an Iowan at heart, now converted to South Dakotan. But Field of Dreams, 1989, starring Kevin Costner, James Earl Jones, Ray Liotta. So this is the story about an Iowa corn farmer who begins to hear voices in his field, telling him, if you build it, he will come. And so he then goes on and builds a baseball field in his cornfield, and then former baseball players begin to return and play on said field, led by Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yes.
So let's jump into this movie, Field of Dreams. When was the first time you guys watched this movie? I'm going to throw it off to our guest. When was the first time you watched this movie?
Let's see. I had to have been, I don't know if I was in junior high when I saw it for the first time. Came out in 89.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was 9. I didn't see it right when it came out.
I'm the old one in the room again.
So yeah, it probably is junior high. I don't remember the exact time, but growing up in the Midwest, I mean, it was kind of, the Midwest.
This and Twister were the staples of the Midwest
right.
household.
Oh, weren't they ever?
And I grew up on a farm too.
Oh, there you go.
I honestly, I can't even tell you. I mean, you figure 1989 and 98, my brain was wrapped around Back to the Future and all the whimsical movies of that kind of time frame. I would say it was probably sometime in high school that I probably saw this. It would have been years later on VHS kind of thing, before I probably saw it. Probably post Dances with Wolves. Kevin Costner is probably when I would have picked up this film.
You hit the South Dakota Kevin Costner first.
Of course, yeah. Who does from South Dakota? Who doesn't go for that one first?
I don't remember the specifics of when I first watched this, but I know this movie was one of the ones that was in our minivan that had a DVD player. It's like this was a constant. Like it didn't ever leave the van. It was in the van for road trips, and that was it. This, Dumb and Dumber, Tommy Boy were like the 3 big road trip movies for us. But and subsequently we went on a trip to Field of Dreams when I was very young, and then I've done it again here. What was this, 2 years ago maybe? We went back to the Field of Dreams, and it's a very cool thing to go and check out in Dyersville, Iowa.
Does it still only cost $20?
It doesn't cost anything to get in.
Oh, well then the movie's telling me lies.
Well, it's I don't know. It's a hypothetical.
Oh, okay.
They want you to buy the $20 T-shirt.
They'll toss over.
Yeah. Or the baseball cards that I bought as a little kid from there that had.
I'd buy a T-shirt from there.
Yeah, it's very cool. I think I have a hat of it somewhere. But that's kind of so. Yeah, the field is still standing. They did play. Have they only played there once? I believe, or maybe it's been twice that the MLB has actually brought major league teams to play there. I know they did like last year, maybe 2 years ago. This was.
Yeah, they were supposed to play this year.
Again? Yeah.
Well, I think it's scheduled.
Or at least was.
Yeah, for August sometime. But.
This should be, for the sake of baseball and what this movie means for baseball, not to take away from other baseball films, but it seems like that should be something that should be like, when you've got like the certain teams in football that play on Thanksgiving Day, like there should always be one game that's always played at the Field of Dreams every year, or at least a subsequent like series of games between certain teams and whatnot that should always be played there, I think.
All right, I got the Wikipedia pulled up.
Uh-oh.
The game is scheduled for August 13th. It is the White Sox and the Cardinals. So it seems like the White Sox are the team that they go with.
Which would make sense because that's
definitely makes sense for this.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very cool that they actually get to play games on this now. So let's jump into the movie then. This is my favorite baseball movie. First of all, like before we even get into any other ones that we'll discuss this entire month.
How much of that it blames on Iowa?
A lot of it. But it is one of those I'll try to take as much Iowa out of this movie as I can for a movie set in Iowa.
Very good luck with that.
Yeah. I just love this movie. Watching it again last night as we're recording this, just the thing that stood out to me this time watching it was the score for the film. It's such a fantastic score.
James Horner.
James Horner score. It's tremendous in this movie. And one of the things that I just really love is that it does feel like an old school 1930s or 40s Hollywood picture.
Yes.
Like it feels like an old like Frank Capra movie. And that's one of the we'll pull it up later when we get to some of the scores for this movie. But Roger Ebert has a great review for this movie. Yeah, what about you guys? What are some of the things that really stand out in this movie for you?
I would say for me, and my brain is just joking about this as I'm watching the movie, thinking about, when this movie was made and everything like that. I was like, this is probably the most PG-13 or even PG that I've ever seen Ray Liotta. Like, I'm expecting like F-bombs and everything. Like, I'm waiting for him to go all straight, like gangster, and he just strays, straight to the character he is, and I'm just like, this isn't my Ray Liotta. It's fantastic.
There's one little bit in this movie where he does turn up the Ray Liotta. It's his laugh. It's the laugh. Like he can't get past the Ray Liotta laugh. It's pretty great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Steven?
I think it'd be a combo. I mean, the casting, just how well they all play with each other. From obviously Kevin Costner, but James Earl Jones. Just those two road tripping and their dialogue back and forth. And, from Amy Madigan as Annie and just kind of her hippie ways in the movie.
She has such an energy in this movie too. Yeah.
Which is fun. Her PTA scene is great. And just some of her comments too. But the casting, but then the score too. I mean, that just helps make it, just the opening scene even. All of that sets the mood.
I do have to say that the performance of James Earl Jones is by far one of for James Earl Jones just period, one of his best performances.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorites for sure. I mean, some of his line deliveries in this, like there's one line towards the end of the movie, he's like, Ray, there's always been one constant, it's baseball.
Yeah,
like just the way he says baseball, I'm like, yeah, baseball.
Like you watch this movie and he just looks like he was having so much fun. Like this was a movie where he's like, I signed on, I'm not quite sure what I signed on for, kind of thing. When you get in, have realized what kind of chemistry he has with these guys, and then just went with it. He's just like, I'm just gonna have fun. Because you have old cadre, James Earl at the very beginning, which is perfect, whatever. But then also you see that turn, and you're just like, he's just the old grandpa you want to have everywhere.
But he was, I mean, when he showed up and arrived at Field of Dreams, he was more of like a little boy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Almost giggling at times, sitting on the bleachers and stuff, laughing, and in the comment about who are you, Elvis? Or the Easter Bunny, and he's just sitting there laughs.
I really wonder with him, because when I think of baseball movies, this and The Sandlot are two of the ones that come to mind. And of course, he's in that as well. I wonder if he has a baseball background at all. I'm not sure. I don't
necessarily know about a baseball background, but I would assume he's got some sort of like fanfare for it.
Yeah. Do you have some notes?
He hates baseball.
Oh, he hates baseball. Oh. Well, maybe that's a lie. A lie, like he tells in the movie. Maybe
I hate baseball, but you're in 2 baseball movies. I know.
But the way, even in these movies, maybe this just shows how great of actor James Earl Jones is he has this childlike innocence. When he's talking about baseball, like this and The Sandlot, he has that big, just cheeky grin on his face when he talks about it. So. He's just a damn good actor.
He had to go to that happy face place since he knows he doesn't like baseball. I would honestly say, in regards to names that you didn't drop at the very beginning, who is in this here, for the sake of old seasoned actors, having Burt Lancaster in here as well, I think even for the small part that he plays, completely just solidifies the rest of this film too.
Yeah, he's great in this movie as Doc Graham.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he just the small little bits that he's in, he adds a little extra to every scene that he's in. You know, he's not in it a whole lot, and it switches between who plays the younger version of him.
Frank Wally.
Okay, so yeah, but just the small scenes he's in, he's really great and really like he feels like the character he's playing, like the Doc from a small town. Like,
yeah,
that's just exactly how he feels in this movie.
And for the sake of Frank to Bert, in terms of the character, the young to the old version, like you can see that transition of character. Like you don't see that that they're not like how does this person become this person? Like they both play the character so well in their respective age bracket that they are, that you could see Frank and be like, okay, yep, I pictured that character growing up to become the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't look at it and go, no, not so much. No, I think they both did a fantastic job playing their respective versions. Especially Frank playing the snot-nosed kid who just wants to play baseball.
Yeah, and he's really
the wink.
Yeah.
The follow up, yes,
yeah. All the baseball stuff in this is really fun. Like as a kid who grew up like loving baseball history, like this is one of those movies that really like rings true, because like much like Kevin Costner's character in this, where his dad was telling him all these, like this was like his fables, like these were his fairy tales that he was telling him. Like that's kind of how I grew up as well. Like. Even like reading baseball cards as a kid, and so that stuff really like connects with me. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, that's one thing I really do like in this as well. Let's jump into Kevin Costner though, because he is Mr. Sports Movie. He is, as much as we like to call Tom Hanks America's dad.
He's definitely
Kevin
up
Costner
there as well.
Kevin Costner is Tom Hanks's dad. He just feels like the dad next door.
Is he only got the 2 baseball movies, or is there more that I'm?
Love of the Game.
It's 4.
4.
No, 3, right? Yeah.
Love of the Game.
Bull Durham, Love of the Game, and Field of Dreams.
Because I knew that I was like, I know there's a third one, but I didn't get a chance to look up or whatever. I was like, I know Bull Durham right off the top of my head, because I remember years ago my first job at a Christmas party. They're like, here's a VHS of Bull Durham for Christmas. I'm like, okay.
Did you watch it?
I've never seen that movie.
Oh, it's great. Oh. Bull Durham's great too.
Yeah.
I was watching that when I was watching Field of Dreams, and I shouldn't have been watching that one.
You should not have been?
I should
No, you should not have been.
That one. No.
Both very different movies.
Very.
But at least it goes to show the person that Kevin Costner is, to be able to pull off both films. Even though I do look at this, and as an adult and rewatching this now, I do look at this movie going, somebody was on acid when they wrote this, because like the different aspects of this film should not work in terms of, ghosts. Essentially, we look at like ghosts and time travel and, speaking to the beyond and all this stuff. You're just like, this should not work.
Christopher Nolan wishes he made this movie.
In 20 years, we could Christopher Nolan's remake of Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. I would watch that. That'd be pretty good.
With Hans Zimmer.
Yeah. Every time they hit a ball, whoomp. Yeah, Costner is great in this movie, though.
Yes.
Let's jump back to this.
Yes.
Yeah, he just everything you feel like I said, he feels like a dad next door. He feels like a little league baseball coach in this, and that's kind of what you need to feel in this. And yeah, what are some of the other scenes that really stick out to you guys?
The bedazzled look that he has when he's trying to figure out what his next thing is, and he just gets all like schoolboyish when he realizes, like, for instance, like he needs to go to Chicago to go visit Terrence Mann. Like he just gets completely all like, this is what I need to do. And he just gets that glimmer in his eye. And it just basically goes all downhill from there when it's when his wife, when they realize they had the same dream. And then that's when you realize that's when the rest of the movie is going to happen. She's basically full on board. How are we going to make this happen?
Yeah, and they feel like a real couple in that situation, and throughout the movie. And that's one of those like classic like magical Hollywood moments, is like the connection. Like they both realize they had the same dream at the same time. Immediately she's like, all right, I'll go pack the bags. And we're on the road. Like there's not a wasted moment in this movie.
No.
Yeah. What about you, Steven? What's some of your favorite moments out of this movie?
He's got a lot of, little lines that he sneaks in that are good, but just some of just his acting. There's a few spots where you can just see how involved he is in his scene where his voice is trembling a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course it just brings more emotion to the scene and stuff, and then brings waterworks to your eyes, but on quite a few of those scenes. But I think he did a fantastic job comparing it to Bull Durham, his acting in there, which was I didn't enjoy his acting in Bull Durham very much.
It's very different.
It's very different.
Yeah.
But just overall acting ability in that film was quite a bit different.
He feels a little more connected to the source material, or like to the material in this.
Yes.
Where Bull Durham's a very different type of movie that they're going for with that compared to like the subject matter in this. It's been forever since I've watched Bull Durham. I just remember that there is some sexual scenes in that quite a bit.
What?
Yeah. That I should not have been watching at 8 years old.
No, probably not. You're supposed to be watching that through your fingers.
Yeah. Instead, I was probably watching it in our minivan on a trip somewhere. Let's jump to some of the famous lines of this movie, because this, if you look at like the 100 greatest lines ever, this probably has one or two in it.
Oh, easily.
Because if you build it, he will come.
Yep.
Is obviously one of the greatest lines ever. Is this heaven? No, this is Iowa. It's another great line. And then the tearjerker line at the end is, it got me last night. It got me. It's one of those movies where if it doesn't get you,
Which one are we talking about here? Just so
do you know which one you're talking? I'm not going to cry on the show.
The last line of the film.
The last line. Yeah. You want to have a catch? Yeah. I wanted to call my dad. But like, you want to have a catch over the phone?
Can you come to South Dakota? I need to play baseball with you.
So I'm going to pull up Roger Ebert's review of this movie. But basically, he says this reminds him of, this is the kind of movie Frank Capra might have directed and James Stewart might have starred in. A movie about dreams. Which I think perfectly sums up this movie. And they're throwing jabs in the movie at that, I think, a little bit. But this is wholeheartedly a Frank Capra style of movie. Is there any other things you guys want to bring up on the movie? Any big notes that you guys want to talk about?
I do like the end when Archie becomes the doc and saves the daughter and whatnot, and just all of a sudden the brother-in-law all of a sudden now can see, and just the look, just everybody else just giggling at this guy because he's like, hey, when did all the baseball get here? Because there's only two things I know that man from, and it's from an old TV show I probably was watching when I was a kid called 30-something, and this is the only thing I know him from. But that is like the one scene out of everything that I always remember is, when did these baseball players get here?
Yeah. What about you, Steven? What is some of the other things that really stand out to you in Field of Dreams?
Kind of those scenes that kind of get you. The one where the daughter comes in and says, "Daddy, there's a man out of the field," or something. I can't remember exactly what she says, and then everybody just kind of stops. And then, in the van when Ray and Terrence are driving, and they've already picked up Archie, and then he says his name.
The look.
The look there, just those little spots there. That kind of just like, they're kind of emotional because they kind of get you because they're all tying in different parts of the movie.
And I do like the fact that when he calls the wife at home and says, "Hey, we're going to Chicago, and I've got Terrence Mann with me," and the first thing she says, "Did you kidnap him?" No, he came willingly.
And that's a great scene too, where he goes to visit him and has the fake gun in his jacket.
That's just your finger.
Well, and another moment that I really like, pretty much right after that, is when after they go to Fenway Park and figure out what's the next step they need to take in their adventure. He drops off Terrence Mann at home, and he spins around, and he's just there. It's just a great pause in the movie where he says, "Moonlight Graham," just the way James Earl Jones's voice.
The part that's great about that scene, though, is that that's like the same scene that you could play out in like most horror films. Like you're expecting to come around, and that's where the bad guy is.
That scene did scare me a little as a kid.
Well,
it's understandable. There's like fog building up too underneath James Earl Jones, and he's just in the headlights.
He has an entity about him when he does that.
He's Darth Vader. I mean,
he is Darth Vader.
He's Darth Vader. This movie was also nominated for 3 Academy Awards. Did not win any.
But what was it up against, though?
That I will pull up. But it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Screenplay, and Best Original Score. So I'm going to pull up the Academy Awards.
3 solid reasons to be nominated, at least. It's not like you're looking and going, really? They nominated for that?
All right. So let's go to the Best Picture as I'm scrolling through IMDb that apparently does not want to put that at the top of the score here. So Best Score, we'll go there.
Okay.
Little Mermaid won that year.
Well, I mean, Disney likes to, win its Oscars.
Yep. Also nominated was a movie that we just talked about, Born on the 4th of July.
Okay.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and The Fabulous Baker Boys. So John Williams was nominated twice that year. For Indiana
I don't
Jones
picture the Baker Boys even getting a chance with the rest of that in there. But I mean, at least not to win that year, it was up against some seriously solid competition.
Here's Best Picture. So My Left Foot was nominated. Dead Poets Society was also nominated. Born on the 4th of July, Field of Dreams, and the winner of that year, Driving Miss Daisy.
Okay, well, Driving Miss Daisy is a fantastic film, so I'm just saying.
It was some stiff competition that year.
It very much so was.
And then
don't mess with Jessica Tandy.
Yeah, so that's the big ones there. That was quite a year though, 1989 for pictures, and
well, of course,
for us to talk about two of the biggest movies of the year.
Back to the Future 2 came that year too.
Yeah, it should have been nominated for Best Picture.
Heck yeah!
If they had the 10 nominees,
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure should have been. No.
I mean,
I think that was 99. That might have been 88.
I wouldn't argue against that either. All right. Do you guys have any other final thoughts on Field of Dreams? Any other lines you guys want to bring up, or should we just get to crying and go have a catch?
Go enjoy that movie. Enjoy everything about that movie. I wasn't even 100% sure if the Field of Dreams was still a thing anymore. Yep.
I know for the longest time it was, especially the last time I was there, and that was 3 or 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. They were kind of struggling to get, keep a revenue, because much like the actual movie plot of them plowing over a field, mm-hmm. of their crop, that's what you have to do to have the Field of Dreams where it is. Like you're taking away real estate for your crop. So
you got to make it up in, merchandise, and if nobody shows up to buy the merchandise.
Yeah. Well, and I think them having MLB games there now is going to help a lot.
Oh, extremely.
Because you're going to have that revenue, and that will probably take care of you for the year.
Concession alone will probably take care of you for the year.
So it's great that this is still up. It's still available. It's free to go to, so you can go ahead and just drive to Dyersville, Iowa, and just drive up to the Field of Dreams and play ball on the field. It's really cool. Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll just have to take a road trip, Casey.
I could go there every year. I love it. It's so much fun.
He's like, I'll go there every weekend.
I'd go there right now. Let's go. Steven,
do you have work tomorrow?
You can skip work. It's Field of Dreams. They'll understand. Do you have any other notes that you took that you wanted to bring up on the show, or?
No, I mean, it's just there's random stuff, but no, I've always enjoyed this film. I just watched it this weekend, but I could watch it again tonight. There's just the whole thing. I mean, I can't pinpoint specific things with it, but it's really enjoyable and relates to a lot of things, whether it's relationships with your dad or a family member or baseball. It can pull at your heartstrings in different ways.
I do think that there are aspects of this, of the young, lovable Kevin Costner that we don't get to see anymore because he's the old, rigid version that he is now. That it's like you kind of wish that you would every once in a while get one of those. For me, it's like the same as like a Tom Hanks movie. I only think about because I keep seeing Greyhound over here. Is that yes, we know Tom Hanks can do a phenomenal dramatic role. When was the last time he did a good, fun comedy like The Burbs?
that sort of thing. Like, I just want to see him, get outside of that box every once in a while. And Kevin Costner is definitely one of them. But like for the same instance of when Zack Snyder, cast Kevin Costner as Pa Kent for The Man of Steel. Like, well, if you can't get Tom Hanks, because Tom Hanks wouldn't fit for a Pa Kent. Kevin Costner fits for a Pa Kent. So that old rugged dad look.
He's the Midwest dad.
He is definitely the Midwest dad.
Yeah. And it's funny that you bring it up that looking at him now and some of the stuff he doesn't have the youthful charm to him anymore.
Right.
Which is kind of weird because that is the whole plot of this movie. That's the whole moral of this movie, that you get old and you can't do the things you used to do when you were younger.
Who cares? Go be a kid.
Yeah, go back on your field of dreams and just go play ball. And yeah, I love this movie. This is one of my favorite movies ever, and we had to talk about it. I don't think, because growing up, baseball movies were like my jam. It was like Star Wars, superhero movies, baseball movies. And I don't think any movie, maybe The Sandlot can maybe touch it a little bit, but I don't think any other movie really captures what the magic of baseball is besides this movie. And it's a thing you can't even describe either. It's a very weird thing.
And when you make the comment about the magic of this film, I think part of it is because this movie kind of delves a little bit into the magic of it, that there really isn't a movie like it. It really does kind of stand on its own in a subgenre of film.
Yeah, it's a sports fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of another sports movie that really does. I mean, you look at like the 90s Disney movies, like Angels in the Outfield.
Rookie of the Year does not count. Anything with the Angels in the Outfield or Rookie or anything like that, anything that was meant for kids does not count.
Yeah. But yeah, this definitely stands on its own. And like I said, it's so hard to describe what it is about baseball, but this movie gets it. So if you have never understood why people have a weird obsession with baseball, you just watch Field of Dreams.
Yes.
Yeah. So highly recommend from all of us. I do believe from our conversation.
Part of me is like, why would we be talking about it if we didn't recommend it, or at least 2/3?
Well, we all recommend it.
Yes, we all recommend it. Yes.
And then maybe at the state we'll do a double feature: Bull Durham and Field of Dreams.
Ooh,
yes.
That would be an interesting one, especially now. So do we start dark and go light, or do we go light and go dark?
You get the families in first, and then when they have to go home and take the kids home, then you throw.
There you go.
Comedy, yeah.
I like it.
Or do Major League right after too.
There you go.
We'll just do a baseball series.
A baseball series would be great. Let's just not do Major League back to the minors though.
We don't do straight to DVD.
So I was legit debating putting that on our list for baseball.
Why?
Movies because it has the Twins in it. And they're the bad guys, and that just makes no sense as a Twins fan to me.
No, it doesn't.
No.
And this is coming from a guy who grew up in a Cardinals/Twins environment.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
It's the White Sox. They're the bad guys. But yeah, Field of Dreams, 1989. If you have not watched the film, I mean, go check it out. It's one of the greatest sports movies ever.
It's on sale right now too, on digitally anyway.
Well, there you go. So let's wrap up this conversation a little bit here, and I'm going to throw it off to Steven. What do we got going on at the State Theatre here? We are in the first week of August when this is dropping. So is there anything you would like to bring up with the State and talk about that a little bit?
Or anything you can talk about anyway?
Yeah, I mean, in Kentucky, we're still under construction, and construction is progressing nicely, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Seats are going in the middle of August. New windows are going in, chandeliers, lighting, stuff like that. We'll be going in next week. We'll get some of them in, so we'll start getting all those in. Those big finishing touches.
Sure.
That round out a big project. Acoustic paneling will also be going in the next. That's August 10th. Those go in, so then we can hopefully rein in on some of that sound that we got coming from the good speakers that we bought. So open date is still fluid. COVID isn't nice to us or any movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
So
no,
we don't know if we really want to open and then close right away again, or just have very small crowds,
Right.
Yeah.
and try to wrangle that. So
it's bad enough that you guys have been working so hard to try to get this progress as quickly and what you guys can do, and then global pandemic says, oh, you think so, huh?
Yeah, I mean, so we'll see. If everything is perfect and the rest of this construction process goes smoothly, October could be a possibility, but we'll see. And maybe it's where we open up for tours, at least just to get people in, put some stuff on the screen. We'll just play it by ear. If not, maybe we could do just a few films just on weekends, to at least get us started and kind of wet our feet a little bit too on trying to figure out all the new equipment and everything.
Yeah, a little bit of a cold open.
Well, I was gonna say like a cold open, or at least to get an idea of like we talked about before, like what kind of repertory screenings, or try to get a gauge of what is it the public is looking to want us to have there.
Yeah, and we're still negotiating with studios. We've got, I think, 15 we've signed up with. We still have 10 or more left that we're working on. Some of the big ones are left, which take a lot more work.
Yeah,
but
sure.
We've got Sony and Sony Classics and Searchlights and a bunch of other Magnolia, and but we're working on Paramount and Warner Brothers are two big ones.
So as soon as you sign the deal with Warner Brothers, Tenet makes its world premiere at the State Theater in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Yes.
Well, you're making mention of all these different companies and everything like that, and I'm over here thinking like I'm more excited for, like, you make mention of like Sony Classics and Searchlight and Magnolia, because these are probably the smaller films that places like the Century are not going to get. Cinemark is not going to get them because those aren't the paydays that they're looking for, because that's not what's going to fill their screen cinema. But that's something that you guys could easily do at the State. And so those are the kind of things that I'm excited for, because that's going to be able to give us a more diverse palette of films that we have not been able to get before.
Yeah, and like Neon, A24, we've already got those guys on board, so we're good to...
For me, that's big.
That's
A24 is huge.
Exciting. Yeah.
So yeah, and they've been great to work with. Some of those smaller studios, they're very personable and are very candid on emails and stuff, and they're all excited that a new theater is opening up.
Well, that's good.
At a time when a lot are just literally closing.
Yeah.
And so they said they're excited to see a new place. So
that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. We're excited too. We can't wait.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe we will try to draw on a premiere of something.
Yeah. There you go.
see.
Tenet.
Well, I'm sitting there going, I'm still looking for. I mean, obviously, being the fact that you guys aren't going to be open up in time, but like they're talking about like the dual release for like Bill and Ted 3 here in the couple, and I'm just like, I just want that to come to Sioux Falls. If that means that I'm going to I'll have to go to like say the West Mall right now.
Yep.
Absolutely. But that'd be like the kind of thing, like if you guys were open right now, I would be like, you guys need to somehow get a hold of them, get a hold of MGM and be like, okay, let's do like a triple feature or something like that to be able to premiere that, because that would be just a fantastic thing to be able to see that on the big screen. Because I don't even remember if I even remember seeing like the original like Bill and Ted, to be able to have like a nice good
and on the big screen.
On the big screen, yeah.
And it's not that, especially is one of those movies I don't see a lot getting programmed anywhere.
No.
Seems like this would be the summer to do that.
Right.
Yeah, but
because I mean the idea of all these like big studios, the big franchise theaters and whatnot, who basically say that the streaming, the dual release theater and VOD, basically if it's a dual release, they don't even consider it. Like it's off the fact that we might have more ability to be able to have some of those on a big screen that we can still watch.
Oh yeah.
Very exciting.
Yes.
We're gonna get Keanu and Alex Winter here in Sioux Falls. It's confirmed.
It's confirmed.
It's confirmed.
You gotta stop confirming stuff you haven't actually done anything
We'll start
on.
working on it. Yeah, I mean our goal is to have fun.
Yeah.
We're excited to get past the construction. I mean the construction is interesting, but that's not what we were hired to do. But we want to make sure whatever's built is something that's
sound.
Yeah, we're all good with it, but we're excited to get into programming and digging into putting on events and the fun stuff.
Yeah, the program is going to be so much fun.
Getting people through the doors and doing some unique things. So we're excited. We haven't had any time really to spend on that yet. But,
and that's the fun part.
I know. Yeah. Every time we start, we'll have a meeting about it, and then something pulls us off track. And
Like, so about that construction. No, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Let's just talk about movies instead.
I want to talk about movies.
Yeah, but we're very excited. Again, if people want to follow the project and what you guys have going on at the State Theater, where can they find you guys online?
I mean, the Facebook page is where we try to do most of our updates. Sioux Falls State Theater, if not SiouxFallsStateTheater.org. We got virtual cinema going on. Still, that we're trying to cycle through some films every week, and that's kind of a learning experience for us to get to work with some studios and programming which films we think people might be interested in. Because there's a lot that are thrown at us that we pass on, and it's been interesting.
Yeah, we're very excited to see what you guys have in store, and I mean, I just can't wait for it to be open, especially since
we'll take the day off day one.
Yeah, we'll take it off and head to the theater for the day. But again, thank you so much for joining us. This was a blast. We'll definitely have you back on to talk some more movies and talk a little bit more about the State Theater and anything else movie related going on in South Dakota. But with that, we'll wrap it up with some of our plugs of some of the things that we got going on here. You can find us and this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, and on YouTube, and on backlot605.com for our latest movie news, reviews, articles, and anything else Backlot 605 related. And Brian, social media, where can they find us?
Where can they find us?
Yeah.
They can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We do a pretty good job of trying to keep that up to date and let you guys know what's going on. Also, we have the South Dakota Film Community Facebook group where everybody can chime in, talk about whatever they want to in terms of what's going on in the film world, whether it be local or national. Like to see everybody, getting in and joining the conversation. Yeah.
Yes, and we also got to plug August 30th. We have our Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger live show that we are ranking the top 20 films of both of the two greatest action stars of all time. We're very excited to be doing
every
this show.
time you bring that thing up.
I love it. I think it's a great.
It's perfect, but at the same time too, I laugh every time.
I love it, and there's only going to be one action star standing at the top, the number one. So this will be the definitive list that will define who is the greatest action star.
Are we going to find out who our real last action hero really is?
We're going to find out who the real last action hero is. So again, August 30th, you can find it on Facebook Live, and we also will be doing the show live at Spellbound here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So find more information on that. Go follow the event page on our Facebook. But next week, we will be talking about another baseball film in our baseball miniseries, of course, Moneyball. So the Brad Pitt-led Moneyball. We will be discussing that next week.
This will be a first-time watch for me as well.
Me too. I've read the book, but I've never watched the movie.
And I would like to point out you didn't make one single baseball pun.
I know. I feel proud of myself. I could have swung for it, but I didn't. But for Brian Mensing, I'm Casey Calderman. We'll see you next time on the Backlot of South Dakota. Goodbye.
Matt Damon.